Yeah, Week's End Happy New Year edition.
Wait a second.
Woo!
It just got
Yes,
dark in here for some reason. Did you see that
it
light
sure
click
did.
off as soon as we went live? I got to fix that. Oh yeah, you see that? Did you
Was
hear
that
that?
Darth Vader?
Oh yeah,
I
let me
heard
let me
that.
let me try it one more time. Oh
Folks, he's
yeah.
been rehearsing this all day. We have been trying to get the audio right on that for hours, and all we
Lights
can hear
on,
is like,
lights off. I know, right? Well,
oh
Mr.
my
Darth
God.
Vader is the latest. I don't know if you call that. That's like pre-Internet of Things when we
Love
just
it.
used our hands. Welcome to the show,
But
everybody.
Happy New Year, buddy.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. Welcome back to the bromance machine known as Week's End.
Heck yeah. Well, I'm
It's going to
excited
be a
about
good
this
show.
show for a lot of
Me
reasons. But
too.
one thing I want to do, if I can pull this off, is I want to pan around. Everyone's been asking, like, what does your room look like? What is it behind the camera?
Let's see the nerd layer.
And I'm actually showing off this week
Oh.
because
Wait a minute. Go back. Go back to the.
yeah.
Huh? Wait. Go back. Go back a little further. Is that a Mickey Mouse telephone?
Oh heck yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. All
Heck
right,
yeah,
keep
buddy.
going.
Well, that's the landline in case the internet
The
goes
child.
down. You know?
Yeah. I see.
But if you
Grogu.
go all
Yeah,
the
I
way
see
around,
Boba
I've
Fett.
got a lot happening here. And then
Wow.
the game console of everything. I've got
And then there's your original Millennium Falcon. I saw it.
There you go. Yep.
Folks, this is quality nerd tour. Okay, so I'll do the same thing real quick. So there you go. There's all my stuff, right? You can see lots of nerd stuff. You can see my Star Wars video game, all of my Tintin stuff. This is my desk here. You can see there's why is there a Scottish tam there? We're going to find out in a minute.
No.
But we'll talk about that later. There's a lot going on in these rooms, and I'll tell you why that's important, folks. Is not only is our nerd culture important to us, but like we spend 10 hours a day in these rooms.
True.
So we're just surrounding ourselves with comfort. But anyway, kick us off, Ryan. What else?
True. Well, the reason I wanted to show it off is because I just had junk just piled on junk, and my wife was going to commit me as a hoarder, so I had to make it presentable. Now you can hang out in the nerd layer. So if we ever go back to live shows, there we go. So I wanted to ask, what did you get for Christmas? What's the number one thing you're most excited about?
Number one thing. Oh, I don't know. I'd have to really think about that. Maybe it's
nice.
I'd have to say it's this.
Oh my gosh.
Look at that. Now, this is one of those rare occasions where something looks so good in the box that like you don't necessarily want to actually unpack it. So I am waiting. I'm going to enjoy Voltron 84 in its briefcase here, and then I'm going to build this with my remarkably talented stepson Matthew, who, by the way, is still recovering from COVID-19, which has been quite a journey, and everything you've heard about that horrendous condition is true. So let me tell you, it is not the easiest thing. But I am excited, and I'm going to hang on to this, and we're gonna do that together. Where I'm, my age and he's his age, but we'll be like a couple of kids again. It'll be fun. Nerds! Thanks a lot, Eric.
Yeah, nerds.
And what about you, Ryan? What are you excited about?
Well, the thing I'm most excited about, I'm going to show you a couple of things. One thing is I've been finding a lot of comfort in building things. Not like you, I think, with wood, but I've been building a lot of construction sets, and I got this as a gift, which is amazing. Aliens. It's not Legos though.
Oh, it's Mega Constructs, sure.
Mega Constructs, but apparently they have what they call the Black Series, and it's the Queen. Amazing stuff. Right?
I'm Ryan. So I have expensive amazing toy.
I got to break into that. But the other just weird thing, and I don't know if anybody saw this on my Twitter or not, but I got a Kraken that inside has it's weird and functional. But it just cracked me up. It's now I've got the Kraken guard from Old Spice.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and label that weird but functional. And all right, so you got some good stuff there. So you're gonna smell ready for anything. I'm impressive. But I heard a rumor, Ryan. Yeah, I heard that you used to do a very special thing, and that with the rise of technology, that special thing you used to do sort of disappeared. Can you tell us what that special thing is and why we're talking about it today?
All right. Well, I think what you're talking about here is the rise and decline of cassette tapes. We are children of the 80s. We used to make mixtapes. I can remember vividly even making a mixtape for my girlfriend in high school, and that was just a thing you did, right?
Wow.
You recorded off the radio. You tried to re-record it multiple times, but then I got into the practice of making, when I got married and had kids, I got into the practice of collecting my favorite holiday songs and making mixtapes every Christmas. And I would put them on a CDR, and if you were in the chosen group and you got excited about it, I would send you one of those. But I got out of practice, started in 2002, stopped doing it around 2012-ish when, that's when iTunes and Spotify and everything was just sort of taking over, and iPods were the new normal. So it became kind of pointless, but I brought it back this year. So I have a new Rab's Eclectic Christmas Mix, and it's on Spotify. So we'll put the link in the show notes, everybody.
Can I guess what's on the list? I bet it's Avett Brothers, followed by more Avett Brothers.
No. This is one of the only mixtapes, I think. This is probably one of the only playlists I've made this year on Spotify that did not include them, but they don't have any Christmas music, which is a bone.
Yeah, I'm calling bullshit on that. But okay, I'll try to believe you. So that's cool. So hang on a second. I'm gonna do a very quick costume change here.
Oh, really?
Just bear with me.
Oh, I was told there would be no dance number this week after the holiday show we did with the singing and the carousing and the what. Okay, that appears to be Scottish in nature. Am I right?
So this is... Can you hear me?
Yeah.
This is a Scottish tam that my mother had made for me in Edinburgh, Scotland. My family on my mother's side are Scottish. This is my family's tartan. It is Fraser Ancient Hunting tartan, and I have a kilt and all the plaid plies and or whatever it's called, plaid fly. And I have all that stuff. And so I wanted to wear this today, but do you think there's a reason for that?
There might be. Let's welcome our special guest, folks.
Let's welcome our special guest.
Hey, Theo.
Hey. Thanks for having me on.
Well, happy 2021. We're glad to have you on.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Theo Priestley live with whiskey from Edinburgh.
Hello.
Oh, man. Well, welcome to the show. I mean, I'm nursing a 2-day hangover, so I'm on the caffeine and soda here.
Yeah, well, my brother is Scottish, so I can probably hammer this all week long.
Keep going in, yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Excellent.
So, Theo, on week's end, we typically sort of review the week in nerdology, right? So, like, what's happening, whether it's Star Trek, Star Wars, movies, video games, books, technology, whatever it is. You can imagine we spend a lot of time talking about the Mandalorian and other things. But tell us what has Theo been nerding about a quarter of the way around the planet there. So what have you been doing over there on the other side of the Atlantic?
I recently discovered Dark Matter today. I got recommended, and it's the first time I've actually started to watch it. So most of my nerding out has actually been trying to sort of read, find some really cool sci-fi stuff that I have not seen. So I would say in the last month, I started Fringe, just started Dark Matter, finishing off The Expanse, which has been absolutely fantastic this season. Finished The Mandalorian, finishing off Discovery as well. So I found out that Three Body Problem is going to be on Netflix at some point as well, which I'm really excited about because those sets of books are absolutely fantastic as well. So generally anything like sci-fi, I will be nerding out at.
So I saw your tweet that said you can never have too much science fiction, or however you worded it. I totally agree with that. So I think, and Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we've had enough time since the end of The Mandalorian that we can talk about the end of The Mandalorian without it being so. Folks, if you have not completed watching The Mandalorian, stop watching this broadcast now because I'm going to ruin everything. So, Theo, the end of, what was it, season 2?
Yeah.
2. What did you think? What did you think of Luke's show? What did you think of that?
Well, I had like major. Well, you can't see any goosebumps from the tattoos, but I had major goosebumps as soon as the X-wing came along, and then you saw that the hooded figure. You kind of knew what was coming, and it wasn't the Shoka either because they made a big deal of it, especially with the X-wing. And then the picture, the music. I really love the soundtrack in The Mandalorian. It's so different, but yet it's still tied to Star Wars as well. And the whole mood of the soundtrack changed as well, to the point that you just knew something big was going to happen. And then the green lightsaber, that was it. Lost my shit. That was it.
And Ryan, what did you think? Did you notice that it was sort of like it mirrored the scene at the end of Rogue One with Vader coming on? But I mean, what did you think of it, Ryan? What was your take?
Well, even just the introduction, like Theo said, I was sort of in shock and I didn't want to believe. Like, I was sort of like, is this really happening? You know. So, and I thought it was really nice the way they did the quick cuts, like with the folks on the bridge watching the black and white monitors. You didn't really know it was a green lightsaber until they cut into the corridor and kind of really got into the main sort of, you know, assault that he had with the droids in the corridor over the bridge. I love just that ship that they were fighting on. They had, you know, the bay that they were falling off into space, and then it just the whole thing. The production value of the show just quite frankly blows me away every week.
And you know, I got to tell you guys, and Theo, let me know what you think. I'm cool with the whole de-aging. And the fact that they kept, like, the whole series was like, I need to care for this kid, but oh my God, we're going to mention Grand Admiral Thrawn, and I need to mention I got to care for my kid, and here's another amazing character. Like, the whole thing was this like constant Star Wars nostalgia. And then with the de-aging of Luke, like, I'm cool with that, because I don't care if it looks cheesy or if it was sort of predictable. Like, oh, of course it would be Luke. Like, no, I'm good with that. like it's cool. So I didn't think it was cheesy. I mean, what did you think of the de-aging, Theo? Were you cool with that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it reminded me a bit of Tron Legacy when they de-aged Jeff, and there are some aspects that you just can't get right. And I was kind of drawn to the lips a lot, just when and you could tell because he had limited dialogue.
Yeah.
And then someone actually did a deep fake of the same scene, but actually using Luke from Return of the Jedi and overlaying it. And it did look really, you know, it looked more impressive, I guess, less uncanny valley kind of sort of stuff. But at the same time, we're never going to get it 100%. So you just have to kind of, you know, you don't go into Star Wars, you know, and not suspend your belief about everything that's going on around. So, you know, you can nitpick for hours.
And I think at the end of the day, they've done such miraculous things with building the sets with that immersive environment,
amazing.
Right? Yeah. That's like they are innovating, but their budget's not limitless. I mean, they're doing those things. Some of those innovations they forced themselves to invent how to do that so that they could have these immersive environments and still have like a cockpit on a gimbal and make it feel like they're in a real ship. But at the end of the day, I think, you know, I don't think Luke was perfect, but I was willing to forgive a lot because I realized
I don't need it to be perfect.
They don't have millions and millions of dollars on each episode, so they have to do what they can.
Like I love the fact that Boba Fett is totally rocking a dad bod and like it's fine.
Yes.
Like I'm completely totally.
That was my quote from that episode was make it a dad bod, but make it dangerous.
So Theo, we know you totally love Star Wars. That's cool. And so when you look forward into 2021, assuming we all survive whatever's happening in the world, what else are you looking forward to? Are there any other movies coming out? Like, for example, I'm looking forward to Ghostbusters Afterlife or Dune. So what are some other things maybe that you're looking forward to?
So like I said, I think Three-Body Problem.
I don't know what that is. What is that?
So it's a novel by a Chinese author. And I can't really sort of say too much because it would completely spoil the entire premise of the book. It's Chinese sci-fi. Is absolutely fantastic. It is really grand. So if you've seen, he wrote The Wandering Earth. Now, if you've seen that movie,
okay,
right. Believe it or not, Wandering Earth was actually a really short story. It only spans about 10 pages, but they managed to spin it into this incredible big budget science fiction movie. And I really love that about the Chinese sci-fi scene is that they are not constrained by the imagination or the scale of it all. And Three-Body Problem is something a bit like that. Just the scale of his thought process is just something else. And I would definitely recommend the 3 books that he has. That he's written that as a trilogy. So turning that into a series or a film on Netflix. Dune. There's Foundation as well.
Coming
out. I can't wait for Westworld to drop the next season for Westworld. The Orville.
I liked Westworld season 1 and 2, but then in season 3, I was like, what the hell is happening here? And they kind of lost me, and I really, really love it. And I couldn't even tell what was happening at one point.
Yeah, I can get that. I think I wonder if this will be the last series or the last season that they'll try and film before it kind of runs out of steam. What else am I looking forward to? I think just in general, I think anything that's you've seen the slate for the new Star Wars stuff as well, all the series.
Oh my God, it's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know whether they find the time to do it, but it's really interesting seeing this renaissance in Star Wars and sort of renewed interest because now they have streaming format. And so they can explore all these stories that, never would have seen the light of day if it had been a big budget film.
Well, Theo, you'll get a kick out of this. Did you hear about the whole thing with Kenobi filming? What happened here in the States? So this is typical idiot American behavior, right? So the Lucasfilm or Disney announced that they were filming the new Kenobi series with Ewan McGregor, which is I'm totally excited about that. And they said that they were filming it in Boston. So everybody in Massachusetts was like, oh, yeah, Boston. Like, he's filming here. And we were all trying to figure out, like, wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense. Like, what are they filming at the Garden? Are they filming at, like, the New England Aquarium? Like, we couldn't figure out why would you film a Star Wars series in Boston, Massachusetts? But they're talking about it on the news. Everyone's talking about it on Twitter. People are, like, driving around trying to spot it, trying to figure out where they're going to shoot. It was Boston, England. We were all wrong, and it was completely embarrassing. And it was typical,
center of the universe. Center of the universe. All right, I have it. So I want to probe this question, Theo. You posed an interesting question on Twitter earlier today, which I was just thinking about this because I'm obviously a big fan of the Alien series. I still think that the first Alien is one of the best films in the genre, and have a lot of respect for it. And you'll remember, like, the Nostromo was like this weird, like city, like oil rig put on top of a platform that just did not look like a spaceship that you'd ever seen before. So I think this is a really great question. But what's you say that you're into space sims in your bio. What are your thoughts here, and what prompted you to ask this question?
So, I mean, I'm a great fan. I mean, I'm a child of the 70s. I was born in 72. I loved, and I grew up reading lots of sort of sci-fi magazines and books and stuff. And a lot of the artwork came from people like Sid Mead, Chris Foss, Berkey, all that kind of sort of thing.
Great stuff.
They all have really cool styles. And of course, Chris Foss used to draw all these weird, wonderful spaceships that had no symmetry whatsoever. And it was kind of prompted me because you see The Expanse and you see Space Sims as well, and everything's pretty much symmetrical, and obviously for a reason, but to do with physics and inertia and torque and thrust and things like that. So all the mechanics that we are constrained by in flying planes and atmospheres still apply in space. But it was for me, it was like really interesting just to sort of to try and see if we could ever break out of this. We have to build a spaceship, and it has to have 4 sides or whatever, and it has to have thrusters across every single plane, and it almost looks so utilitarian in a way. Can't we imagine weird and wonderful stuff like Chris Foss used to do, or still does?
Theo, so that's a really cool thing, and I've always wondered that too, because I've always been a Star Trek. I mean, Star Trek and Star Wars fan, so it's fine, but it's sort of two different things, right? And I always used to look at the Star Trek ships and think the same thing. And then there was an episode called Descent in Star Trek: The Next Generation where Hugh, the Borg splinter group have gone off and formed their own thing, and they actually have a Borg Type 3 ship, and the Borg ships were always cubical, right? And then they had the Borg Type 3, which was very asymmetrical, and it totally made me think. I think you can click on that, buddy. it completely made me think of Chris Voss. And now it's not all the bright colors like we saw for Jodorowsky's Dune and some of the things, but you can really see how it's totally asymmetrical. And it doesn't make any sense. Like, if these things don't enter the atmosphere, why would they be that way? And then, of course, we got to the Kelvin universe with the new Star Trek movies, and they were flying through the atmosphere. Yeah. So, but this was an example that I found, one that was asymmetrical, and I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I think so. If you look at TV series like The Expanse versus Star Trek, and Star Wars, they have their own physics. It's not based on Newtonian physics, and everyone's whizzing around, and you've got faster than light travel and stuff like that. Whereas if you look at The Expanse, it's very, very grounded in reality and real physics, real Newtonian stuff. Ships are pivoting according to thrusters, people are getting pushed against seats and G's, and everyone's wearing magnetic boots so they don't float off. And, there's no inertial dampers, there's no artificial gravity or anything like that. And for me, I think that's something that adds so much realism the realism adds a completely different dimension and really brings something to life like The Expanse, because it does make you think. And
how far into The Expanse are you? Are you rewatching, or are you getting into it for the first time?
Oh no, I've watched it all the way through, so I'm in season 5, right up to the latest episode.
Okay, good. So I am behind you, although I have watched the whole series up through 4.
Right.
So I loved it for that reason. Like, from the very first episode, it felt like, advanced technology, and they've achieved things going out to the belt, going to Mars, all those things, but it's still a dangerous enterprise to calculate how you're going to slow down and reach your destination, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm often calculating how I'm going to slow down.
Did you see the one of the latest re-entries of the Musk rocket, and the way it kind of the Starship, was it? No, what was it called?
Yeah, Starship,
and it was flying, and then it kind of pivoted.
That was amazing.
Well, and that's what it blows me away. So I know it's not, it's based on the retro style, but I'm a big fan of the original Battlestar Galactica and the new one as well. I love the new one. And the one thing that was never realistic in the 70s, of course, is they were trying to replicate the Star Wars look and feel with their VFX. And so they had jet fighters and saucers flying like they were jets, and it was like the big thing was push the booster button and whoosh, they would fly away. But in the new series, they, kept the same look and feel, but added, directional thrusters to make it feel more like a capsule. And so it made it feel, a bit more grounded in reality.
And it gives them a good excuse to run a whole new line of toys, because now you need the toy that has the directional thrusters.
Without a doubt. All right, we have our buddy. Well, Eric is chiming in saying that he thinks Star Wars is a great example of asymmetrical ships.
Great example. E-Wings, definitely. TIE bombers. Eric, I couldn't agree more.
Y-Wing, A-Wing, all those,
So, Ryan, what do you want to move on to next year, buddy?
Well, I wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking about just a couple of TV topics, because for me, I have taken it's been over a week now. I'm making a joke that how many days I've been wearing pajama pants.
Oh, thank God! I thought you were going to say the same underwear.
No. I have showered and shaved, but pajama pants are the uniform this week. And for me, I tuned in and watched the new Wonder Woman movie. So I wanted to see if you guys had any thoughts on that one. Yeah. Or I can go first.
I've not seen it. I'm not particularly fussed whether I see it or not straight away. I have read a fair bit about it. There are a couple of things upon reading it that it kind of drew a bit of a sharp intake of breath, and I thought, "Oh, that's quite a touchy subject." I think.
Yep.
Steam, for example, I think is a bit of a weird one, and that seems to have caused a bit of ruction, I would say, in how it's been handled. But overall, I mean, I think Wonder Woman in itself is probably one of the better movies out of the entire DC universe. Batman aside,
definitely.
but I think the new DC movies, I think, need to get trashed and started again, which I think
I couldn't agree more.
Anyway,
without a doubt.
I agree. So I mean, I watched it. I actually thought the whole time that it was Mixelplick behind it. Remember Mixelplick, the the little guy? You had to get him to say his name backwards to disappear. But the thing about Mixelplick is he is arguably one of the most powerful characters in the whole DC universe because he had this phenomenal power to create whatever he wanted. And so at one point when they show the stone, Ryan, they talked about like the crown prince of lies, or they had some term of the person who originally held the stone, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's Mixelplick!" Like,
well, they never explained
this guy's going to show up.
So they
just walked away from the plot.
Right. So the whole MacGuffin of the film is that they find this magical stone that can grant any wish. So they found they've got a genie in a bottle. Essentially, you don't know who the genie is though, and they never refer to where it came from. It's just well, they talk about the gods. So Wonder Woman thinks everything is coming from like the Greek gods based on the mythology of Themyscira or, her lore. And she is a god. And so for me, this movie it's a little bit of fun with the 80s kind of look and feel, right? Which is always, that kind of retro look is good for me. I enjoyed it for what it was. I wasn't expecting I think a lot of people have an expectation about like a checklist for what superhero movies need to have. And it needs to have, 3 set pieces, and there needs to be a significant enough villain that he's going to blow up the world or something. And that's not what this is about. This was really an introspective movie in a lot of ways into Diana. In the end of the first movie had literally never left home. She was a teenager essentially in a woman's body. She has superpowers, and it was her first taste of like seeing the real world and learning right from wrong and falling in love. And this movie was her maturing into a woman. That's what I think happened. And so it didn't have a
grasping at some straws there, but
I think it didn't have a villain, right? The villains were like, gluttony, greed, lust, all those things. I think that's what it was. And I thought
it had some good action sequences. I thought the mall sequence was good. Sure. The truck sequence was good. The sequence of her fight. The scene of her as a little girl was amazing. Yep. The scene of her fighting whatever Kristen Wiig's character there. I forget Barbara, but I forget what the
Minerva.
Minerva was really cool. So there were some cool things. There were some funny things like when she talks about radar, and he's like, "What's radar?" And he's just like, "Is they going to shoot at us?" I mean, so there, but then there were some ridiculous things like the Air and Space Museum is not a parking lot for jets that are fully fueled, ready to go, and armed to the teeth. Like that's and a jet fighter cannot fly to Cairo in 20 minutes. Like there are just some things that we had to let go. But they used it as a vehicle to get to the invisible jet. So to me, it was like, oh, that's great. So it's like with the Mandalorian. Like I'm cool with you teasing me with little things that I remember from my childhood because like I'm in for that. The nostalgia's cool.
Yeah.
That's my take.
I gotcha. Well, and I just think a lot of folks, they were expecting something, and it's you got to take it for what it is. So, so I know I watched a lot. I just binged a lot of stuff because I was just in a cocoon the last week or so. But I wanted to know, Graeme, you mentioned that you have a tradition with what you do every New Year's Eve. So I wanted you to talk about that.
I do. On Sci-Fi every year, they have a Twilight Zone marathon, and I love the Twilight Zone marathon. So I look forward to it every year. And even though they're episodes, like most of them I've seen, because I've seen hundreds of, or however many there are, I think I've seen every single one of them. But every once in a while, I'll find one I haven't seen, which is nice. But I really love it. It's like a weird tradition, and I just really love it. I mean, Time Enough at Last, the episode where Burgess Meredith's character is, in a nuclear war, and he emerges, and he's sort of this voracious reader and was never allowed to read, and then he finds, he's the last man alive, and he finds a library, and in the last second, he drops his glasses break, and now he's screwed, essentially. And the reason I love the Twilight Zone is the Twilight Zone was one of the very first things I ever saw when I was a kid that ended badly. Most of the stuff programming that we're exposed to as children are movies that were television shows that are all about happiness and good, morals and lessons, and all the movies end well, and the Twilight Zone was one of the first things where like that is rare. They almost all end in some crazy way. And so whether it's, I mean, pick any one of the episodes, right? I mean, one of the ones I saw last night was 22, which is the one where a woman is in a hospital for anxiety attacks, and she keeps imagining a woman outside the morgue saying, "Room for one more, honey." And she is released from the hospital, and they just tell her she's been frantic. She hasn't been to the morgue. It's okay. And in the end, she goes to board a plane. It's flight number 22. The stewardess at the door says, "Room for one more, honey." So she runs away and the plane crashes. And so that was another one of those episodes where as a kid, I was just like, whoa. So I really enjoy, drinking, eating, and watching Twilight Zone until I pass out on New Year's.
As you do. Well, this is reminding me.
And then watching all the CNN anchors get trashed on television. My wife and I love that.
I don't know about either one of you, but I was not that into Twilight Zone when I was younger, but I was really into The Outer Limits, which was kind of like the sort of 90s take on that same format. But you're making me remember, I binged a few of those earlier this year, and I don't know if either one of you saw this, but there was an episode of Outer Limits that had a young Mark Hamill as like a VR scientist, and he had invented creating like a virtual environment in your brain, of course, to save his long lost love who had
I remember that.
Passed. So I remember those. Those were fun because those were sort of like, taking a darker stance in some cases, right?
So last thing before I want to give Theo we're going to do Theo's pitch, and I know we want to do our 3 words, but the last thing I wanted to say was 2 other shows that I've been watching, and Ryan, I know you've been watching at least one of them, is the remake of The Stand on CBS All Access is phenomenal, much better than I thought it would be. It's really good. I mean, Whoopi Goldberg was born to play Mother Abigail, and Alexander Skarsgård was born to play Randall Flagg. It's perfect. And I mean, obviously, guilty pleasure, Cobra Kai. And then I just finished all 5 seasons of Peaky Blinders, which blew me away.
I feel like
pretty busy.
Netflix should be sponsoring this show because Graeme brings up Cobra Kai every episode.
What are you talking about? That's ridiculous. I don't bring that up
as often as I bring up that band, which we will not name. All right, let's go into our last segment here. I was going to rattle off the top 5 holiday films you should watch that are not on Hallmark. I'm going to put those in the show notes for everybody. Okay. So we wanted to do a last segment here, and it's something that I've been doing for a couple of years other than, the New Year's resolutions that people would, it's been a tradition since forever. It is kind of one of those things where you maybe work out or change your routine, but don't stick with it. And what I've found is I need something that's more of just a mantra or a touchstone or a north star. And a lot of people do that with a single word, maybe to guide their entire year. My buddy, Chris Brogan, came up with a process of using 3 words. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility, and he coaches people on how to come up with their 3 words. I've been doing it for a couple of years. And I just wanted to share mine, talk about why I picked them, and then give you guys the floor to do the same. Graeme, did you come up with 3 words yet? I
have 3 words.
Right. Okay. Theo, I want to put you on the spot and actually have you go first.
Oh, okay. So my 3 words are create, persevere, and share. I learned something about myself a couple of years back when I did a video game project. That I have a latent passion for being creative, and I managed to sort of exercise that, and it's something that I really want to capture again this year. And I think it's important that we take a step back from just working and actually start to do stuff for ourselves. So the create aspect, I guess, is just me recognizing that I need to, every once in a while, just stop and actually do something, whether it's write a short story, whether it's write a production document or something, do something, create something, use your imagination, use your hands to basically build something, because we are creative creatures anyway. We weren't meant to just sit at a desk and stare at a screen all day. Persevere. We've all had to persevere with something. And the biggest one was last year with the whole lockdown and the whole coronavirus. And I think we're facing that again this year. I think it's a case of if, stick with it, persevere through this adversity. If you are going to create something, that I want to do, I know I'm going to fail a couple of times. I really want to stick at it. So persevere through some of the barriers as well. And share. I think it's important that we share everything with each other, whether it's what we've done, whether it's a tragedy, so we can basically offload and get help. Or whether it's just if we have an overabundance of something and we want to give it, help someone else out. I'm really conscious that I've got a large network and it's pretty eclectic, and I want to be able to help other people with that network now. I realized when I did the book project how many people I actually know, and I've never tapped into that myself. But now I'm thinking if I can help someone else, then I'll try that as well. So those are my 3 words: create something, persevere through some of the hard stuff that we're going to be facing, and share what you can.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic.
I feel like
Ryan,
I need
there's no way you're going to outdo that.
Well, I feel like I need to change my 3 to those 3 now. Like a lot of what you're explaining is exactly some of the thoughts and feelings. I don't know. What he said. All right, Graeme, you're up next.
My 3 words are cheesy hot dogs. No, I'm just kidding. That's not true. That's not true.
Nice.
It's not true. My words would be sacrifice, concentration, and improvement. So sacrifice is... It was actually originally, believe it or not, suffering. And the reason I say suffering isn't that like we all haven't been suffering this year, but it's because I have gotten far too comfortable. I'm not exercising enough. I'm not eating well enough. I'm not taking good enough care of myself. And the only way to change those, I've actually wanted to adopt what's called the 100 days of pain, which is like every day you have to get up, you have to exercise, you have to change your diet, you have to do these things. Yesterday, I went on this crazy hike in search of a dragon. That's a true story. And actually found the dragon. Thank you very much. But like was struggling up the mountain. It was just like brutal. So for me, sacrifice is like, I need to sacrifice the stuff that makes me lazy and get into that mindset and let it go. And then concentration, Ryan, you and I have talked about this, no big secret, but I mean, I have pretty serious ADHD and I need to get serious about treating that. So I need to really think about whether it's medication or therapy or whatever it may be. I need to get better at focusing. It's very, 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 very difficult for me to focus. And quite frankly, I blame this thing a lot, right? These phones and things like Twitter. And so all those social media apps, after watching The Social Dilemma, yes, but by the way, available on Netflix, I got rid of all of those on my phone.
Right.
Because I found that like even during a commercial break, like I'm immediately doing this, or like the plot loses my interest for a half second and I'm doing this.
Yep.
And it's not just that. Like I want to get better at reading books. I want to get back into my research. There's a lot of things that I want to do. And if I can't focus, which is a side effect of quarantine and lots of things that are going on, I need to get better at concentration, those 2 combined, sacrifice and concentration, lead me to improvement. So I want to focus on self-improvement, right? Which is, I want to lose a lot of weight. I want to get in better shape. I want to be, in better shape for my family. I want to deal with my tinnitus. I've got to deal with all kinds of stuff. And I just want to, and these are things that like guys don't typically talk about this stuff, definitely not live on camera, and rarely everything's I'm fine. Like my father, my grandfather were one of those, like, I'm fine, everything's fine. And then next thing you know, like my grandfather drops dead of stomach cancer, like he wasn't fine. And I don't want to be that. So if I can get really good at sacrificing the things that make me lazy, I don't mean sacrificing everything I like, find a way to be better at concentrating, I can improve overall. I'll be a better member of my family, a better member of my teams at work, a better member of my nonprofit board that I serve on. I'll just be a better person overall. And those are my words: sacrifice, concentration, and improvement.
Cool. Excellent. You just can't give up sushi because when we're back together in person, eating sushi.
Dude, I literally just had the sushi the other night. I was like, they're like, it'll be about an hour wait. Like, there is no wait too long for the sushi.
I know, right?
What about you, Ryan? What are your 3 words?
You know what? both of you guys are like, we're on the same. I feel like we're simpatico here. We're on the same wavelength.
If you say
I want
the Avett Brothers, I'm kicking you
no,
off the show.
no. I want to show you what I did.
I don't know.
I want to show you what I did here. So I'm gonna show up. Put something on the screen really quick. Yeah, there we go.
Is it Netflix? Oh,
not Netflix. Oh, zoom.
Oh
zoom,
man.
Zoom. Okay, so let me explain how this
works.
Nice. We used to do this thing where we sent out probably between 85 and 100 Christmas cards every year, and it just ballooned and ballooned and ballooned. And this year, last year I don't think we did it, and then this year we were going to do it again because we were like, we've lost connection with so many people that we because of the lockdown we were not as present in people's lives, I guess, to put it one way. And with all the ups and downs we've had, so we thought it would be nice to write a letter. And then I was like, you know what? I just don't want to write this, like, I don't know, grandiose kind of thing. So I took the 3-word concept and I said, okay, everybody in the family, sit down on Christmas Eve and think about this. What would you say for yourself? And then we just wrote this little note and we mailed it to a couple of family members, like my parents and that sort of thing. My siblings, mother-in-law, very select people. But then I posted this on Twitter yesterday, I think, and just said, hey, everybody, mine are flexible, firm, and fascinate. And it sounds, like it's opposing there to say flexible and firm. But what I mean by this is I need to open myself up more to, I guess, kind of what you were touching on, Theo, of like exercise my creative brain more and be more open to just going with something and seeing where it lands and seeing it through to completion. So I want to be more flexible in that way. I also want to be more firm with where I spend my same thing. Where do I spend my time? What do I say no to? Because I feel like I'm very much a person who's not able to say no at work or not able to say no to, they say that the number one key to success in business, right?
I can confirm that.
You think about how do you spend your time every day? So I need to be better at that for sure. And there's some personal growth stuff there too, when it comes to both of those words, when you think about them. And for the last one, fascinate, I've been, I just want to work on more projects that are fascinating to myself and are going to fascinate others. And doing this show has been partly an outlet for that. And now this is our 31st show. Thank you for being on the 31st show, Theo. And we're going to keep this going. But for me, I just, again, back to the time thing, I've realized with this past year that with everything and all the changes that we've had through this pandemic and the peaks and valleys of everything we've gone through, and having a son go to college, come home, have struggles, everything that we've been going through, is that you really have to find the good in things and find how it's going to fascinate you.
Awesome.
And I think
I like what the dog said, chicken, steak, right, and turkey.
Well, yeah, Banjo is now older than I in dog years, of course, but yeah.
Awesome. I love it.
So thanks for that.
Yeah, that's great. So really inspirational words, guys. Ryan, let's make sure that we share those again. I think those are really great things. I know we talked a little bit about on Twitter earlier today, but let's make sure we do that again. Maybe even share that on LinkedIn, because there's good stuff there. Yeah. But the last thing I thought we could accomplish today is, Theo, we want to be able to give our guests a chance to what we like to call the pitch, right? Which is, what is something that we can amplify for you? So folks, this might be, a charity or a new project they're looking to take on, or a gig or a job or whatever it may be. So Theo, what's your pitch? What can we help with?
I'm gonna cheat a little bit and actually say maybe three things, and I'll say them really quickly. And 2 are personal, and 1 is kind of sort of charitable in a sense, or just a message. So, the first one is, I've got a book coming out. It's coming out in April. It's called The Future Starts Now. I worked on this with a whole bunch of other people. It's not just me, so it's not just my singular boring voice that you will read in this book. There's around 20 other contributors in this. each talking about the future in a specific angle, whether it's money, whether it's health, whether it's the economy, whether it's education, technology, society. So that's coming out in April, and I think in June in the US through Bloomsbury. So you can get it from Amazon and stuff like that. The second one is kind of a personal, I guess, a personal switch in direction. So I do a lot of keynote speaking and stuff like that. And one of the things that I really loved working on was the video game project, which a piece of artwork is actually behind me, in 2017 and 2018. And I actually want to take what I do in a way and be almost like Sid Mead was, but without the drawing expertise. I cannot draw shit. But I would love to be some kind of creative futurist where I am consulted rather than by technology companies about what's going to happen around the corner, but for film and TV projects about the same kind of thing. So if there's a film or TV or video game project that is looking at a future-based scenario as part of the concept, that I get brought on board and consulted as to, what would be the aesthetics, what would be the technology of that particular time period, what would the economy be like, that kind of thing. So I'm looking, I'm going to try and pivot some of what I do. And then the third one, I guess it goes back to one of my 3 words, is sharing, which is, we throw a lot of food waste away. We waste a lot of food, I should say. We buy loads of food that we don't need because we end up throwing it out because we haven't had time to eat it, and we buy takeaways and and all that kind of stuff, and deliveries and stuff like that, and we end up throwing out the food that we bought in a weekly shop. I would love us to start looking at food banks and things a lot more, or even donating some of the stuff that we have to maybe local businesses or whatever in return for some other kind of service. So going back to that kind of sort of a real service-based economy where I give you something because I'm helping you, because I want you to survive, and in return you maybe give me like a 5% discount on something when the next time I come in, or helping a neighbor by giving them unwanted food that I don't need, and they're not too proud to refuse or accept it, kind of sort of thing. So
I love that.
I'd love to see a return in this lockdown to more community-based stuff, rather than everyone out for themselves.
So, Theo, that last point, I really like that. In 2014, I traveled to Peru with my father, and we went to Machu Picchu. It was a unbelievable experience. But, and if I got the term wrong, but they were talking about the societies that lived in Peru at that time and built like all the different monuments, including Machu Picchu. They lived under a concept, I think it was called reciprocity or something like that, where it was like, you help me, I help you. You build your house, maybe you help me build a well. You cook me dinner, maybe next time I'll bring you vegetables. And it was this, but it wasn't like isolated things. That's the way the entire community functioned every day, all day. And I was really, really blown away by that. I mean, growing up in a country where it ain't like that, it was especially now. It was really fascinating to imagine a flourishing, thousands of years culture that survived that way, and I was really floored by that. So I love that, Theo. I think that's great. Really,
I think that's the right term as well. So
okay. Oh, phew. See, Ryan, you always say I'm so stupid, but I'm not.
Okay, now spell it. Just I was told there'd be no math. Okay.
Well, let's wrap it up, guys.
I love that too, great, folks. Well, Theo, thank you so much for being on the show this week. This has been awesome.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Wishing you
long time, man. We finally got a chance to meet.
I know.
I feel like, and speaking of Twitter, I feel like the reciprocity thing for me, Twitter clicked because of that concept. Of like meeting people that. Like we're talking kind of for the first time on this show, and it's like I feel like we've been Twitter friends for a decade, and it's like so it's interesting to see how social networks used to encourage that. Maybe that's what they need to return to that as well, where it is kind of like a community, exchange, people helping people. But we're glad you could join us today on everybody. People. We'll be here. This was our Year's End kind of show.
Yes.
It's on Saturday, but normally we are coming to you live around between 1 and 2 on Friday afternoons. And we've got an exciting slate of new guests coming up every week, coming up in this new year. So continued health and, good fortune to you, Theo. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me, guys.
Thank you.
All right,
thanks,
everybody.
buddy.
We'll see you next week on Weeks In.
Weeks